Story 1. Talking to me like my mum does. For reference, my mum is a primary school teacher. Even though I'm 30, she still at times talks at me, not to me, and it sends me. Story 2. If she is spatially unaware, she might be the type of person who leaves her shopping cart in the middle of a grocery aisle while she reads the ingredients on a package. She could also be the type who talks in doorways when someone is trying to walk through. It's a mark of selfishness in general. Story 3. If we go to the grocery store and she vocally refuses to get a cart or at least a basket, and we end up having to carry armfuls of items and then pile them on the little self-checkout ledge, that will be the last time we speak. Story 4. I couldn't date a woman with a couple of specific names. At least I'm not sure I could. Mainly because they were names my stepmother was called, and she was very abusive to me as a teenager. I'd say that my lack of comfort around women, let alone those I'm attracted to, has a lot to do with her. Story 5. If they were born on February 24th. First love, together for 3 years, born on February 24th. Next girl, dated 18 months and we talked about marriage, born on that day. 3 years later, dated 5 years and married for 6 before splitting. She was also born on February 24th. At least they all weren't the same year. One of the first questions I casually slip into conversation. Story 6. Total lack of intellectual curiosity. I'm sure it's not just me, but nothing turns me off faster. I've gone on dates to museums back when I was single, and nothing irritated me more than when the person I was with fluttered around like a hummingbird with the interest to match. If that makes me a snob, then so be it. One thing that always got me going is when a girl I asked over headed straight for my bookshelf. Story 7. I love the feeling of being outside and feeling sun on my skin. I dated someone who was very pale and avoided the sunshine. That relationship was doomed. Story 8. I'm not sure how unique it is. I've been a personal computer gamer my entire adult life, for over 20 years. I was once talking to a girl and it was going great, but one night she got upset that I wanted to get off the phone to game, and she belittled it. I literally broke it off the next day. She was confused and angry, but I wasn't about to have that kind of negativity in my life. Coincidentally, the next girl I met wasn't a gamer, but she was interested in it because I liked it. She even let me set up a gaming account for her so she could play with me. We've been married 16 years now. Story 9. If they don't return the cart to the cart return area when shopping or leave random items on shelves if they decide not to buy them, especially spoilable items, this is indicative of general selfishness and complete disregard for others and society. It is a great marker for general unpleasantness. Not saving leftovers, within reason, indicates a thoughtless wastefulness and lack of concern for the environment. Story 10. People who don't change their flaws because they view them as personality traits. Like, no, you're not born sassy or with a short fuse or callous. No, you're just an a-hole. Story 11. Must be okay with water. I love the ocean, pools, and any body of water I can't stand in. Really. I don't want to go to the beach and have you sit on the sand while I float around. You don't even really need to be able to swim. You can just hold on to my shoulders and I'll swim us around, no problem. I will, however, offer to teach you. Story 12. Terrible driving. Whether it is reckless, aggressive, or they're just especially unaware on the road, I cannot stand it. It makes me feel like I am not safe with them to some degree. It also indicates that they either don't pay attention to their surroundings or are extremely inconsiderate. Story 13. I had an ex who was terrified of outer space, like refused to even talk about it. I could understand that stance if she had family on the Challenger or Columbia, or maybe if she actually knew about all the ways that space could kill humanity, but she didn't. It was just so alien that it scared her, and she avoided learning anything more about it. Now, I don't consider myself to be a huge space enthusiast, but I've always been interested in it and want to learn more about it, even if the sun expanding to engulf Earth or the heat death of the universe is really depressing. Since then, I've always subtly asked people I'm dating what they think about space, usually via SpaceX or James Webb News, and have found several girls that somehow shared this fear. It wasn't a deal breaker for me at first, but I eventually figured out that people who are afraid of space seem to be overly anxious in general, to the point where it becomes an issue in the relationship. Story 14. I met a really nice lady in my 20s who didn't like fried chicken. We had the best intimacy, but she did not like fried chicken of any kind. To give you some backstory, I learned how to make fried chicken from my next-door neighbor growing up, who was a black lady from Louisiana, so I learned from the best. She hated it. I said, no, this isn't going to work, see you later. I mean, if you are a vegan, fine, I can understand that, but she was not. Every person for whom I made my fried chicken raves about it. I have had orders placed for it and have made over 25 pieces for parties and such. So that one just didn't work out. Story 15. Women with the name Fran or Francis. It's my mom's name, and she's completely emotionally unstable, invasive, and manipulative. I don't want to be with a woman who even remotely reminds me of her, so I keep my distance from any woman who has qualities that make me think of her. Story 16. She needs to be the type to make elaborate, drawn-out plans with me even though they're unrealistic or impossible. See a TV show set in France? Let's spend 3 days researching homes and villas in France and what we need to do to move there and become citizens and raise goats and make wine. We're never going to move to France. Oh, that's a fancy new car. Let's spend 2 hours on the website together and build one and plan colors and features and maybe compare it with other brands. We're never going to buy it. A 6-month vacation going to some of the no reservations countries would be awesome. Let's plan our itinerary, but never actually fly to Africa or wherever. Dreaming about stuff is more exciting to me than actually doing it, I guess. Story 17. Mine was that I would lose all interest in anyone who shared the first name of an immediate family member. It obviously just wipes out 1% of the pool for a seemingly arbitrary reason, but it's part of the first impression. I can't get over it, and I've always been content with just making that a line in the sand. Story 18. When they take forever to leave a gathering, like having to go around and say goodbye to everyone they've ever met. When I'm ready to leave, I'm leaving. I do the Irish goodbye if I can. Story 19. Being into anime, I know it's not normal. I'm sure some normal people like it. I just really hate anime and can't be around it. Yes, I've tried it. I've watched plenty of varied genres. I just cannot get into it. There's got to be something inherent to the medium I can't get over. Someone super into it would have a very bad time being involved with me. Story 20. If she is into having a lot of knickknacks, they clutter up a house and use up a lot of space on dressers and counters. I also find that people are a lot quicker to buy them than they are to get rid of them, so it becomes borderline hoarding. Story 21. I'm not your target audience here, but one time I dated a guy who broke up with me because I had my own apartment, and he still lived with his parents. I refused to give up my apartment to move in with his mom. Apparently, it's not considered manly to move in with your girlfriend and not the other way around. So I got dumped because I was trying to be the man in the relationship and he's not gay. Anyway, I date women now. Story 22. So, this may sound superficial, but she has to be smarter than I am. Or at least speak with a bit of intelligence. It drives me absolutely nuts when trying to talk to a girl, and they're using slang words and racial slurs, expecting me to keep up and be interested in the conversation. I also hate being the smartest person in the room because, to be honest, I'm an idiot. So, if I'm smarter than she is, then we have a real problem. Story 23. If she needs constant peace and quiet. I was musically inclined as a kid, was a theater kid in high school and college, and still do community theater occasionally. I whistle, I hum, I beatbox, I sing, I tap rhythmically on anything within reach. I rein it in at work or in public because I'm not inconsiderate, but when I'm relaxing at home, there's a good chance I'm probably making noise, especially if I feel happy. It's almost involuntary, like smiling. They're my happy noises. So it always hurts my soul a little bit to be shushed or told to be quiet. I want someone who will harmonize with me, not someone who will tell me to be quiet. I am living my best life and I will not stop smiling for anyone. Story 24. She's a believer. Every Christian woman I've met was troubled in the head. Honestly, I don't care about one's faith and beliefs, but from now on, atheists only, please. Story 25. I wouldn't pretend this is unique, but couch potatoes are a no. Maybe that's a bit shallow, but there is more to life than watching TV or scrolling through social media at home. Some people think doing stuff means spending loads of money, but it doesn't have to. It really just means being willing to get up off your butt and do things. Story 26. If a girl is poor at English. It is not my native language, but at this point, I often find myself using English more than my mother tongue. I consume almost all my entertainment in English, and if I can't share that with a girlfriend, we're not going to work out at all. Story 27. If they are in any way involved in the aviation industry, pilot, controller, airline worker, it doesn't matter. If they are involved in aviation, I'm not continuing. Story 28. I was talking to a woman who explained the opening rules of pool incorrectly and was immediately so unattractive she went from, "Oh, that'd be nice," to "Nah, never," in an instant. Maybe not unique, but I didn't know that would bother me. Story 29. Not being employed and having no ambition to do so. This one sounds so simple and bare minimum, but given how often I read online that men do not care what the woman does for a living, it makes me feel unique. Yeah, I do not get it. A relationship is supposed to be teamwork. Why would I stress myself out financially for a woman who does not care? It is so dumb. Some of you all can keep the broke girls if you want, just do not complain about gold diggers. Story 30. Bad grammar, such as constantly mixing up your and your or there, and their, inability to spell, inability to read, or using ellipses as a substitute for actual punctuation, can be frustrating. It is understandable if this happens as a regular pattern, indicating a lack of a solid grasp of how to speak and read English. Occasional mistakes or the use of text slang are not the issue. Non-native English speakers deserve understanding, as learning another language, especially English, is challenging. However, for native speakers from English-speaking countries, it is difficult to respect the lack of proficiency in their first language when they are adults. Reaching adulthood with poor language skills seems unreasonable when it comes to a basic grasp of English. Story 31. Suggesting that I use the pull-out method when I say we can't have intercourse because I have no condoms. Apparently, not wanting to go without protection is considered weird to many men. Story 32. I focus on people's body structure all the time, and I don't mean like sexually, I mean functionally. Like if you walk with your toes pointed outwards or pigeon-toed, or if your knees are too close together or you have that hump behind your neck because you lean your head forward all the time and you're just not structurally built well, it bothers me to watch you move. I've been around athletes my whole life, so when I see people who are attractive but just haven't developed structurally correctly, it's a weird turnoff. Story 33. I had a woman come to a first date in cosplay. The dinner was full of, "What? Oh, senior," and just endless anime character talking. I lost it when she decided to sing happy birthday with the table across the restaurant from our table and offered them to share our ridiculously large family dessert she ordered for herself. I tipped the waitress and paid the bill, told the anime enthusiast good night and left. I don't know how some guys fantasize about women like that. Story 34. I absolutely hate being called babe. It's nails on a chalkboard to me. I don't know why either. I don't associate it with any particular relationship. It doesn't remind me of anyone. It just irritates me to no end. Story 35. Being extremely religious. I am going to offend you. I have no problem with someone being religious, but in a partner, it doesn't necessarily align with my perspective. There's usually some strong correlation between being religious and other things I'm morally against, so it's usually a giant red flag for me. Story 36. I listen very closely to someone's words because it reveals a lot more than they may realize. My ex-wife once said her previous boyfriend before me said something negative about a couple that were good friends of hers. Basically, the woman in that couple is a knockout, and her husband is a very small Asian guy who isn't particularly attractive or unattractive. My ex-wife said her ex-boyfriend remarked that he didn't know why the two of them were together, and that the lady could do way better. Her reaction to that was one of disgust at how shallow he was. A few years later, she met my buddy and his new fiancé. He's very tall and a little better looking than average. She is not very attractive at all, but she's a great woman. My ex-wife basically said the same thing about not understanding why he would be with her. I pointed out that my buddy was unemployed most of the time and couldn't even keep up with his own laundry, usually smelling like cat litter or mildew from forgetting to dry his clothes. She's the one dating down, not him. It was telling, though, that she was able to say the exact same thing that originally bothered her. This is how she thinks. Even if she doesn't realize it, she is shallow. Story 37. Not able to make decisions in a reasonable amount of time and also panicking in stressful situations. I need someone dependable who can react like an adult and make adult decisions with confidence. Story 38. I once curved a girl because her grammar freaking sent me. She was telling me about her family and how close she was with them, particularly her brother, and she told me that he looked a lot like her. That the family has strong genes, not genes. I gave up right then and there. Story 39. Maybe this is due to me being raised very broadly when it comes to music and having done quite a few stints in the service industry and retail during my college days, but I cannot stand women who sing in a moaning style or are big fans of that style, particularly people who are big fans of Mariah Carey. It's not a serious deal breaker, but it is a serious pet peeve. It always makes me think back to a side job I worked for half a year, from October till February. You can probably guess where this is going, but after having sat through All I Want for Christmas Is You about 37 times a day for over 3 months, I get very moody if I hear that sort of music. I am not trying to come across as some snob, but I just cannot handle that sort of music.